Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stay tuned until the end for a special offer. Hello dear friends, in today's oil painting video, I'll be sharing my latest art school assignment, which is to do poster studies using paintings from classical masters. I, of course, chose to study Bouguereau's work as he's my current favorite oil painter of all time. Real quick before I start, if you'd like to see a 60-minute tutorial of this piece with a color mixing demo, along with hundreds of hours of exclusive content and monthly art rewards, feel free to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/happydartist. So let me begin by defining poster studies, as that term confused me when I first heard it. Poster studies just means small color oil painting studies where the goal is to simplify the source material and reproduce it by tiling the paint with clean, intentional brushstrokes. We were asked to mix the colors as accurately as possible and then carefully place tiles of paint next to each other rather than blending everything together. This exercise is not meant to get us to paint tiny, perfect paintings, but rather it teaches us to interpret the reference and translate it into simple abstract shapes that group together the main value and color groups. Being able to simplify complex, detailed paintings into a few major subgroups can help you see the overall composition as if you're standing far away. In class, they always teach us the importance of creating compositions that are easily recognizable even from a distance, and to never lose sight of the bigger picture even when we're rendering small details. This skill of simplification and tiling also comes in handy when you're designing your own original compositions, as it helps you build a blueprint for the final painting on a smaller scale, and you can also test out different variations very quickly. The first study I did just now was still too detailed according to my teacher, and he pushed me to simplify it even more. I've always had issues with my addiction to details. It was like I couldn't physically control my urge to render tiny details because it was baked into my muscle memory from years of painting this way. So for this next study, I decided to try to physically restrain myself from rendering details by painting extra small using a slightly larger brush, and I only viewed the reference photo on a small phone screen from far away. And as a result, my eyes were physically unable to see any details, and my hands were physically unable to paint any details. This was my way of forcing myself to break free from my old instincts, and instead it would leave me no choice but to practice this new painting and observation technique. But after showing this one to my teacher, he said my tiles of paint were too messy and there wasn't enough distinction between the major compositional groups. Perhaps due to painting too small with a brush that was too large, or perhaps just due to my general frustration with failing at simplification, since it was still such a new concept for me. But either way, I was determined to take this as a learning experience and continue pushing forward. So, almost immediately, I decided to attempt the same study for a second time. But this time, I painted it twice as large and I used an appropriately sized brush. I ended up taking twice as long on this one because I forced myself to be patient, carefully and slowly tiling the paint, and mentally reminding myself, don't blend every 10 seconds. This study went a lot more successfully, with my teacher telling me that I was finally headed towards the right direction at last. And in my last 1.5 years of doing these small studies in school, this was probably the first time it finally all clicked for me. If I view the source material on a small screen, or I just squint when I look at it so that the details are all blurred out, it helps me interpret the reference through a more simplified lens, which then makes it easier for me to paint it that way. And in this last study, everything finally made sense and no longer felt like this arduous, unnatural process anymore. The tiles were clean, the details were thoroughly simplified, and my teacher finally let me move on to other assignments. At our atelier, our teacher has a hilarious way of making us repeat certain assignments over and over again until we fix whatever issues we were struggling with and he deems us ready to move on to the next stage. So I think it might have been also the fear of being stuck on small poster studies forever that really lit a fire under my butt. Turns out, I just needed some desperation-fueled motivation to finally push me over this hurdle. Ever since I started art school at this classical realism atelier, a consistent piece of feedback that I got from my instructors was that I focused on details too much and too early. These past 2 school years, I've done probably over 100 or so of these small studies, both in charcoal and in oils, and I just never seemed to be able to improve upon that feedback until now. And even though this is still a recently unlocked level for me, I'm so excited to continue practicing simplification and seeing how it can help me improve my eye for composition as well, which is another one of my weaknesses that I need to tackle next. And that about wraps up today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I wasn't too confusing to understand because I know at times I can ramble on in a jumbled mess of words. But if you'd like to hear more about the benefit of doing these small simplified poster studies, or if you want to see a tutorial about this technique, please let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to share some more insights and thoughts on this exercise. Have a great day, take care, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! And of course, you guessed it, my eternal never-ending sale is still going on in my shop, so if you'd like 20% off your order of prints and originals, just enter the code HOLIDAY at happyd-artist.com. And if you're interested in learning more about how to paint and draw, I have lots of art educational content on my Patreon page, including exclusive video tutorials, step-by-step photo tutorials, live streams, podcasts, and even surprise art gift boxes. All available at patreon.com/happydartist. I'd love to have you join my Patreon family. I wanted to quickly thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video and for supporting my channel and the art community. I've actually enjoyed using Squarespace for 4 years now to build and host my online shop and website. So whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and visit squarespace.com/happydartist for 10% off your first purchase. Also, if you want to check out more artworks, works in progress, and just random daily artist adventures, feel free to check out my Instagram and you can follow me at the handle @happydartist.